Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for taking your time this evening to join us for the Strengthen Our Community webinar brought to you by the Center Wellington Minor Lacrosse Association and 519 Sports Online. My name is Nathan Joyce, and for those of you that don't know, I'm the president of the Center Wellington Minor Lacrosse Association. It's absolutely my pleasure to be able to join you this evening to talk about a few very important topics. This past year has been nothing but difficult, very stressful for all of us. But in that difficulty, in that stress, some very important topics have been brought to light: racial equality, as well as the stigma surrounding mental health. Two very important topics that we thought that were important, and we had resources within our own lacrosse community that we will bring forward and start and open and honest conversations. This evening, I'd like to, before we get started this evening, I'd like to just thank my executive. They've been absolute rock stars, rolling with every single solitary punch that COVID and the provincial government has thrown at us as we plan out and try to return to sport. We all know, everybody in this room, how important sport and physical activity is for both our mental health and our overall well-being. Specifically this evening, I'd like to thank Casey Bierns and Megan Fitzpatrick. They were the ones that really took the reins on this webinar to get it up and running. Thank you, guys. Darren?
Really appreciate you having me on here tonight, Nathan. Great to be with you, and welcome everybody to Strength in Our Community. 519 Sports Online is extremely pleased to be involved with Center Wellington Minor Lacrosse and helping to bring these incredible guest speakers here tonight. In just a few minutes, you're going to hear from Damon Edwards from the Toronto Rock. He started something called Damon 45. We'll let him explain a little bit about that in a couple of minutes. He's been in the NLL for over a decade now and is an extremely talented player with a great message. Myrna Hutchison is the mother of Stephen Hutchison, who took his own life back in 2013. And out of tragedy, she has started Get in Touch for Hutch, which is a cause very obviously near and dear to her heart. And we'll hear from her and different things, how you can donate and some mental health resources as well if you find yourself in need of those kind of things. I'd also like to acknowledge the Center Wellington Minor Lacrosse Association, the executive here. Outstanding job putting this together on really short notice. So a job well done to you, Nathan, as well as Casey Bierns and Megan, who you mentioned off the top there. Really what this night is about, it's about education. And I think it's about continuing the conversation. And what that really means is talking about important subjects, talking about racial inequality, talking about mental health, talking about inclusiveness, and talking about the power of sport. And they're really, really important topics to continue that conversation. And hopefully what we're doing here tonight is moving that needle forward just a little bit by you hearing from Damon as well as Myrna, and ending the stigma around mental health and ending racial inequality. We'll get to them in just a minute. Just a couple of ground rules, and I promise you there is not a lot of ground rules with tonight, but we do want to go over a few things. All of your mics are muted right now. If you'd like to ask a question, we're going to do questions after each guest speaker. So there's a couple of ways you can ask a question. First of all, if you'd like, you can put it in the chat. The chat goes directly to the moderator, and then we will ask the question on your behalf. Or there's another way to do it. If you go down to the bottom of your screens and you see the reactions, you can raise your hand, and what'll happen then is the moderator will call on you, and you'll have the opportunity to ask a question of either Damon or Myrna. The other thing we want tonight too, we want this to be interactive. So I'm going to show you what I'll do here. You know, thumbs up, reaction, if you can see my screen, heart, all these different things. So if you hear something you like, get involved, be interactive. We want this to be an enjoyable night for everybody, and we want everybody to be involved. And if you have questions, like I said, you will have the opportunity at the end of each individual's address to be able to get your questions in, whether you want to do it in the chat or whether you want to raise your hand. Really, that's about it. The recording, we are recording this just so that everybody knows in terms of the ground rules, and it'll be posted on cwmla.com as well as 519sportsonline.ca. That'll happen hopefully in the next 24 hours or so. And what we'd like is for you to share it. share it with your friends, share it with your families. Again, it's about continuing this conversation and bringing even more awareness to mental health and racial inequality. And like you said, Nathan, I think over the past year, there has been progress and there has been conversations, but with 519 and CWMLA, we wanted to put this on tonight to hopefully, carry that conversation forward and, put things out there that hopefully can help people that are in need or face some, racial inequality. Damon Edwards, what a star this guy is. He's been an unbelievable lacrosse player. And I don't know if I should bring up the Guelph Eagles, but, I have to, because Damon played for the Guelph Eagles from the time he was tight to bantam, had a good experience there. Ended up in junior A lacrosse, playing for the Toronto Beaches, played 4 years there with the Beaches. In his final season, he went to the Orangeville Northmen. That was in 2009, and he won himself a Minto Cup. He got drafted to the NLL and got his first season under his belt with the Boston Blazers, and then signed as a free agent with the Toronto Rock. That was back in 2012. And to this day, 9 years later, he's still playing for the Toronto Rock. And he was actually a teammate of Casey Behrens, who is the VP of CWMLA. So Casey and Damon are going to have a little chat after Damon delivers his address. So you want to stay tuned for that, because I think that could be interesting. Two old teammates kind of, going at each other when they played for the Rock. During this pandemic, Damon has started something called Damon 45. And essentially what it is, it's a program he created to speak about his personal experiences, some of the racial inequality that he's faced. He's been mainly doing it in Toronto, in the GTA, going into different schools and speaking to youth and sharing the message. And the more people that hear it, the better off we are. So again, we can move things forward and make solid progress on that. He's done a great job with that. And he's currently the strength and conditioning coach at the Hill Academy, which is a private school in Caledon. And Damon, congratulations, because I also hear that you just became a full-time firefighter in Pickering. So a pleasure to have you here tonight on the CWMLA webinar. I'm going to throw it over to you, Damon. It's my pleasure to introduce Damon Edwards from the Toronto Rock. Damon?
Well, I just wanted to start off by saying thank you for that warm introduction there. That was very nice. I'm happy that Casey didn't introduce me there, because I don't think it would have been as nice. But I just want to start off by thanking Center Wellington for putting on this amazing webinar event. I wanted to thank everyone sitting there today, taking the time to listen to us talk. I'm honored to be a part of this today. And, it's a little bit more special for me. For the most part, everyone here, we're kind of involved in lacrosse in some capacity, and lacrosse has played a major role in my life and definitely helped shape who I am today. And so tonight I'm gonna go through some stories, some experiences that I've gone through, and these aren't meant, for you guys to feel sorry for me. It's not meant to say, woe is me. It's meant strictly to help educate us. Right? And I kind of wanted to help give everyone a different perspective on things too. All right, so get it up there. So Damon 45, my program here was built on these three pillars that you can see there. Right? And that's understand, educate, and unity. And so number one, with that understand, I wanted to help give youth an understanding of these issues in our society today. Kind of explain why they exist, but also understand that we can all do better. We can do better as kids, we can do better as teenagers, we can do better as adults and parents. And number two was educate. So this program was created to further youth's knowledge of equality, but also give them the tools to educate themselves, but also educate other people too. And number three was, I think my favorite one, I think the most important one there is unity, right? I really just wanted to show, how powerful we can be when we unite as one. no matter the color of your skin or mine. All right, so I'm fortunate enough to have this platform to be with you guys today, and I'm choosing to use this platform to help give you guys an understanding of what's going on in the world right now in regards to racial equality and injustices, but also show you how important it is to be inclusive of everyone, right? So my father's Black, my mom's white, I'm mixed race, and I'm so proud to be both. Unfortunately, though, coming from a mixed race background, it's brought some hardships to my life. When my mom was pregnant with me, she was often told, it wasn't fair to me to have a mixed race child because I wouldn't be accepted by either side. And I'm talking about Black or white. And growing up, this became a truth for me. I felt like I wasn't Black enough to hang out with the Black kids, and I wasn't white enough to hang out with the white kids. It's really unfortunate, but society made me feel this way. Society made me think that race could make or break a friendship or relationship. And honestly, I can't count the amount of times where, I changed the way I look in order to, fit in with a certain group. One day I'd be this preppy kid in class, wearing collars. And the next day I'd be, wearing jerseys past my knees. But my mom, she always taught me, she's like, Damon, just be yourself. And that's what I did. And, being myself mostly consisted of wearing jogging pants and athletic gear from, all the teams that I played on. But I had friends of all different races, all different religions. It didn't matter what color you were, right? If you were cool, you were cool, and I was hanging out with you. So the color of someone's skin doesn't define who you are, and it definitely shouldn't skew how you treat people. Basically, this is what racial equality is, right? Treating everyone as equals, no matter the color of their skin. There's so much racially motivated hate and indifference in this world, and it's honestly, it's confusing to me, and it breaks my heart. So we can't let hate win. We have to learn to love one another and treat everyone as equals. I like to use this analogy to kids, but imagine if you had two friends here. One friend had blue eyes, the other friend had brown eyes, and you treat the guy with blue eyes differently because he has blue eyes. It sounds ridiculous, but that's how ridiculous racism is. And I've heard this said also by kids, by teenagers, even adults, and it goes, I don't see color. Now, I don't necessarily know if I believe this statement. Imagine if someone refused to acknowledge, your identity as, a good student or athlete. For any of the coaches or parents out there, right? No one saw you as the great coach or parent that you were. If this was an important part of you, you'd probably want it to be acknowledged, right? So seeing color, it's not a negative thing, right? Seeing color means we're seeing the real experiences of others. Not seeing color, it's almost a way of ignoring racism, right? So when we see color, we can identify our unique differences. We can really learn to respect our diversity. So, like I said before, unfortunately, because of the tone of my skin, it's brought some hard times for myself. I've been called names. I've been treated differently. In some social situations, I've been made feel so uncomfortable that, I actually felt sick to my stomach. And some of us, might think, name calling, it's not that bad. But in reality, guys, the names that I've been called, even when I was some of your guys' age there, they've hurt way more than any lacrosse injury that I've had over my career. And, Casey can tell you, I've had a lot of lacrosse injuries. And, honestly, I can't remember, the first goal that I scored. I can't remember, the first tournament that I won, but I can remember the first time, a kid was racist to me. Or we just lost the semifinals game in the Hamilton Super Series, or in the handshake line, and a kid called me a name. I'm not going to repeat the name, but a kid called me a name. And I just remember feeling so small, angry and confused. This kid with, one simple word, he robbed me of a lot of great memories that I had in my minor lacrosse days. Was I mad when he called me his names? Yeah, extremely at the time. Was I sad? Of course. I went to my mom after. I remember just bawling. After going through all these emotions, though, I thought to myself, like, how can this kid have so much hate for me because of the way I look? He didn't know anything about me, yet he had all this hate for me. Then I kind of, began to feel, sad for this kid and for the other kids that have said it to me. Sad because they're not educated. Sad because they have all this hate for no reason. And so part of the reason why I'm here today is to help educate you so no kid has to go through unnecessary pain of racism. And so what I'm saying is, choose your words carefully and think. Think before you speak. Because I can promise you firsthand, emotional scars, they can be far worse than physical ones. Good, next, sympathy versus empathy. We're not in English class or anything. You're here right now. It'll be quick, I swear. It actually plays a very important role in racism, sympathy versus empathy. So, as many of us know, there's a major difference between sympathy and empathy. So both are acts of a feeling, but only one constitutes a true act of compassion. Right? So sympathy, it's an act of feeling sorry for another individual or group without the actual ability to truly understand, what they're feeling. On the other hand, empathy, that's our shared feeling. Right? It's the ability to mentally and emotionally place yourself in another person's shoes to have an accurate sense of, what they're feeling or what they're experiencing. So we're never going to ask you to feel sorry for us because we're Black. Right? We're so proud to be Black for so many different reasons. What we're asking is try to understand what we've gone through. Try to understand what the people before us have gone through. Right? It's so important to consider your own uncomfortable feelings before actually trying to show empathy. And as a starting point, you have to allow yourself to be vulnerable. I promise you that it sets the stage for you to have conversations with other people. And, we really need to recognize that, there is a major difference between sympathy and empathy. And when dealing with racism, sympathy, it's just not needed. Right? What's needed is that compassionate empathy. So we're going to move on, guys, to ways that we can all help and we can all contribute in our own communities. So if you see something, say something. Whether it's bullying, friends saying inappropriate things, on the field, on the court, or wherever, speak up and say something. When we're silent, we're just contributing to that racism. Right? So we must call it out when we see it. And as some of us have probably, seen on our social media, people posting, Black squares for equality or different racial injustices that have gone on. And, that's all in great for raising awareness, but it means nothing, if we see racism going on in real life and do nothing about it. Right? So when I say, we have to call it out, that doesn't mean we have to shame these people, right? We never want to shame these people. We want to educate these people. And shaming them can have kind of a reverse effect. And calling it out can look like so many different ways too. Right? We can go, if we don't want to call it out face to face, that's fine. Right? Go to a trusted adult, go to a coach, go to a teacher, go to a parent. that's another way you can call it out. But don't ever think of yourself you're going to be a tattletale or a rat or anything like that. You're going to help, who it's affecting. You're going to help yourself. I promise you're going to help your whole community. And next, we have to have difficult conversations. Whether it's with your family, with someone of color, we have to have these conversations. And honestly, if you don't know how to start these conversations, please use me tonight, right? Say, I saw this webinar, Damon Edwards is on it, and ask this question here. What does inclusion and racial equality mean to you? Okay, so you can take a screenshot of that or take a picture. What does inclusion and racial equality mean to you? Awesome. And if you have a friend of a different race, a simple way to start a difficult conversation is honestly just ask. Say, hey, since we've been friends, have I done anything to offend you or make you feel uncomfortable? The answer is going to be yes or no, right? It's not that scary. And if it was yes, ask what it was that offended them so you can educate yourself and learn from your mistakes. I wish I had, friends back in the day ask me this question, because, I would have said yes. I would have said, you know what, these jokes that you guys are making, they do make me feel uncomfortable. I really wish that I had, friends back in the day ask me that question. And I didn't want to say anything to make them feel uncomfortable, but, the whole time I was the one feeling uncomfortable. And, throughout this past year, I've had multiple friends, teammates, colleagues, even acquaintances just call me or shoot me a message saying that, they support me and they'll continue to educate themselves to be better people. And those simple gestures, they meant a lot to me, and it really gives me hope for, a better future for my family and really all of society. Having these difficult conversations leads into our next way to help. That's educate ourselves. Right? First, we have to realize we can all be better people. No one's perfect. I'll be the first to admit I'm far from perfect. I don't know everything there is to know about social injustices, racism, or inclusion. But, I promise that, I'll continue to read. I'll continue to have these conversations to try to further my knowledge. And that's what we have to do. Always try to better ourselves. And whether it's through reading, watching documentaries, or having these conversations. Believe it or not, you guys sitting there today, you guys are our future. Right? You're our future police, firefighters, educators, professional athletes, and leaders. Right? So that's why I truly believe it's so important for you guys to be educated on this, so we can have a better society for everyone. And thank you again. I really wanted to again thank everyone sitting here. I wanted to thank Sarah Wellington again for letting me be here today. This is a subject that's very near and dear to me. So I appreciate you guys letting me tell my story today.
That's great, Damon. Obviously, we appreciate having you. So it's, I don't know, I'm sure the kids on this call were probably just as sucked into the monitor as I was listening to your story. As you mentioned, you and I had the opportunity to play together for the Rock there for probably 5 years. We were sitting down with our executive over the last couple of months, obviously trying to fight out what's the season going to look like, planning. And it came out, how can we engage with our community? And we came up with an idea of a webinar such as this. Obviously, a couple topics got thrown around. I knew exactly who I was calling to bring out to be a part of this. So I want you to know that. Just kind of my experiences with Damon. As he mentioned, he was hurt a few times throughout those 5 years. But the one part about the NLL and playing lacrosse at that level is you're kind of fortunate enough because you get to travel North America together. So it's not just you're going to the rink and playing. Damon and I had many flights together, hotel rooms, late nights, early mornings, missed buses, probably missed planes almost. So you really get to know people very well. And it's a very fortunate thing that Damon still gets to do, and I had the opportunity to do. So Damon did get hurt a couple times, and it's like, okay, well, what's a kid going to do here? He's a young kid compared to me. My career would have been long over. But I think that just gave Damon more determination to try to fight back and come back as a better player. And I think, Damon, what you're showing now is an exact replication of how you are as a player. So I just wanted everyone to recognize the effort you put in there is really showing now on what you're doing and trying to give back to the community. Some of the things we talk about as an executive is it's not how good of a player you have. Some of the things that the positives that you get out of it is how good of a kid this kid's going to be in our community that we live in. And I think you touched on ways that these kids can do it. So it's very appreciative. Our entire executive thanks you for taking your time. We're going to get into some questions, but I just wanted to bring up one thing, maybe something that you didn't mention that we'll get started. Your dad was a CFL player back in the day. And I'm sure throughout these conversations and you putting this program together, do you guys talk how there was similarities between it, or was racial inequality as big back then, or it kind of more got brushed under the rug? And once we're done that, we'll lean over to Darren. So if people do have questions, you can start sending them in the chat if you have some, or we have a few others. So we'll start with that, Damon.
Yeah, it was definitely brushed under, but it was also a lot more blatant then too, right? So he's told me some horror stories that he's kind of had to go through, and I kind of communicated with him when I was creating this program, and he told me a few stories and really helped me kind of give a little bit different of a perspective. And my parents, they they got married in the 80s, and even then it was they were looked at a lot differently. A black man with a white woman, and it breaks my heart to think that they had to kind of go through that. But we have gone through strides. We have gotten better, but we still do have a ways to go. I shouldn't have had to go through some of the things that I went through. Unfortunate that I did, but fortunate that they did, kind of, because I was able to kind of create this and really tell my story this way.
Really amazing, Damon. Well said. Everything you put out there. And the one thing that really resonated with me right away was, we can't let hate win. And it's a simple phrase, but it's so true. Respecting our diversity. We do have a couple of questions coming in, but I just want to throw something at you. You talked about being, a young guy, people saying different things to you, derogatory slurs, whatever they were. How did you find the confidence to sort of find your identity as to who you were? Your parents said be yourself, but that couldn't have been easy at the age you were at, trying to figure out how you kind of fit in and where your place was.
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. It was hard, right? I was lucky enough though to have my mom. She was such a great support for me. So whenever these kind of things happened, she was always kind of the first person that I went to, and she gave me that confidence to say, listen, there's nothing wrong with you. You're made exactly how you're supposed to be. And I love her for that. And I was lucky enough to have some amazing friends too. Some amazing friends that actually, were able to stick up for me when kind of things happen like that. So I was lucky enough to have kind of that great supportive cast around me with my mom and some close friends.
Let me give you a situational question. You're on the lacrosse floor, you're on the baseball diamond, wherever you are playing sports, and it happens. There's a derogatory slur that happens out there, and as a kid, again, at that age, it's got to be challenging to speak up. But like you said during your address, you have to call it out when you see it, right? Is that the message that you would give, or what would you say to the youngsters listening here tonight? If they see or hear stuff like that, what should they do, Damon?
like I said, you call it out, and I kind of said in my talk before, like, if you don't want to call it out face to face, go to a coach or whatever. But you think about, you're uncomfortable about going face to face. Think about how uncomfortable that kid is who's having that done to him, right? So you can help out so much by just calling it out and not turning a blind eye to it. And you turn a blind eye, then that kid, he thinks he can do it again, right? So a lot of things happen. It's human nature, right? Someone calls something out, they think about it, right? They think about it. What did I say? How was that wrong? So I think that's just kind of the first step is if you see it happen, call it out.
We're getting a few questions coming in. Here's one that says, have you seen a significant change throughout your career at the professional sports level?
Yeah, absolutely. So like, I'm lucky enough that I haven't, had to deal with anything in my professional career. I had to deal with it, in junior lacrosse and my minor days, but nothing in my professional career, which I'm extremely thankful for. But you look back a couple of years ago, there was racism to Lyle Thompson, a guy who's of Haudenosaunee descent. That was only, I think, 2 years ago. So, we have progressed, but in some ways, but we also haven't progressed in some ways. So, like I said before, we definitely, we still have a ways to go, but we definitely have taken the right steps.
Another question, rural versus city settings. Do you think there's a difference in racism between those two settings?
Yeah, for sure, right? You want to go out to like, say, a market up north where maybe there's not, as many kids of color playing the sport. And you go to a place in, say, Toronto here where, I run this Beast Lacrosse program here where the diversity you see here, it's amazing, right? And it's only happened over the last couple of years, which, I love seeing all these different races coming into one and playing the sport that I love, that helped shape me. So it's a difference just because of, I guess, visibility, right? You're not able to kind of see it as much. So you're not sure how to, I guess, react to it as much. But again, that's another reason why I created this program too, right? I've gone out to, places in Peterborough, I've gone out to places, even in the United States, actually. So that's why I kind of created this too, because people don't necessarily see it, right? They don't know how to react it. So that's why I kind of did this. They can, see it firsthand, kind of thing.
Before we get to the next question, I also want to remind people, earlier on in the chat, we put a link to the Toronto Rock website, and you can see more about Damon's program. Again, it's called Damon 45, and he's also given us an email address. So if you'd like to reach out to him either later tonight or in the coming weeks to learn more about the program, you can do that at info@torontorock.com. All right, next question, Damon. I feel lacrosse is a game that includes a lot of chirping on the floor. How should coaches address this with all ages to know there's chirping and then stuff that should just not be said? What action should a coach take if he is made aware or hears it? Should this be addressed before a season? Any thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, chirping's part of the game. Just ask Casey. It's a part of the game, but there's obviously there's a boundary, right? We don't talk about race. We don't talk about families. We don't know what other people have gone through, right? So I guess fun kind of banter in that way is okay, but never kind of cross that line. And I always tell the kids that I coach, I say, let your play do the talking for you, right? You don't have to chirp every 2 seconds. Let your play do the talking for you. And that's kind of what have used in my career too.
Is it sport specific in any way? And that's sort of the next question that's come in. Racism in different sports that you played, whether that be hockey, lacrosse, football, soccer. Is there really any difference at all? No?
Yeah. So, I grew up playing all those sports. I grew up playing basketball, football, rugby, everything that I get my hands on, I was playing. And I felt it more definitely in lacrosse and hockey, and those are obviously a little more white dominant sports, obviously. So I definitely felt it more in those sports. I can't attest to what it is now as a player, but from what I've heard and everything, it has gotten better. And these conversations, right? These are the conversations that kind of need to be had with, our team before a season, our team during a season. I just think that's extremely important.
Last one for you. What's your lasting message from tonight? What would you like the people in attendance tonight to take away?
Yeah, I guess just those tools that I kind of gave you guys, right? Calling that racism out when we see it, having these difficult conversations, and educating ourselves. Things that we can always do and we can keep doing forever, right? This not a one-time thing. It's a thing that's progressive, and I think so key and so pivotal in dismantling racism as a whole is, having these conversations, calling it out, and keep educating ourselves.
Thank you, Damon.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
I know everybody here took a lot away from what you've said. We hope to see you back on the floor soon, to do what you love. And, is there anything else you want to say to Casey? Any other chirps, or we're good?
No, I'll leave that old man alone.
Simple and effective. No, thanks, Damon. Again, for more information on Damon 45, you can check out the Toronto Rocks website at torontorock.com. And again, the email address is info@torontorock.com. Okay, let's move to our second speaker now, and that is Myrna Hutchison from Get in Touch for Hutch. Let's start with the positive stuff. A beautiful young man, a kind heart, a great soul, and he tragically took his life in 2013. Out of that developed Get in Touch for Hutch, and it's about conversations between youth. It's about mental health. It's about ending the stigma around mental health. Stephen was an avid hockey player, avid lacrosse player. He played his minor lacrosse in Arthur. He played junior B lacrosse in Elora, as we all know, a hotbed for junior B lacrosse. 2010, 2011, 2012 season. And like we said, he was a great hockey player too. He was drafted by the Niagara Ice Dogs into the OHL. Myrna is here tonight to share some resources, to share her message. Mental health is something that over the last couple of years has moved to the forefront, but we can do more. And talking about mental health and talking about things like this, especially now when it's been such a challenging 14 months for everybody because of COVID-19. And obviously there's been a little bit of isolation with people being in their houses, but Myrna's got a wonderful message to share. I encourage you to check out her website, Get in Touch for Hutch. They're on Instagram, they're on Facebook, they're on Twitter. And it's my pleasure to introduce to all of you, Myrna Hutchison. Myrna.
Thank you so much, Darren. Hello, everyone. It is indeed a special honor and a great pleasure to be here with you all tonight. I would like to extend my warm thanks to Center Wellington Minor Lacrosse Association for the invitation to be part of such an important conversation. As Darren mentioned, in 2013, we lost our oldest son, Stephen, to suicide. Stephen was away at his first year at university. Tragically, none of us knew that Stephen was struggling or in a place where he was contemplating taking his life. As you can imagine, our hearts had been shattered into a million tiny little pieces. One of the most difficult parts of losing Stephen is knowing that he struggled in silence. And as a result, we weren't given the opportunity to try to help him through whatever it was that he was struggling with. We can now only wish that Stephen would have known that there is absolutely no problem that is too big for us not to be able to solve together, and that he too deserves the same amount of love and respect and support that he so freely shared with others in their time of need. Through the darkness of our grief, our family and many of Stephen's friends helped us to form the Get in Touch for Hutch Youth Mental Health Advocacy Group to start and continue the conversation around mental health and suicide prevention. We felt that we needed to work towards removing brick by brick of the ever-invasive wall of stigma that so often stops people from reaching out for the help that they need at the exact time that they need it. We also knew that we had to find a way to get the tools and resources in the hands of our community members so that they too knew that they didn't have to fight any of their personal battles all by themselves. A great message to understand and realize is that there is always someone available to talk to you who will help you try to figure out why you're feeling the way that you do. You really are never alone. The need for knowledge and understanding was strong for us because we are not fully trained frontline mental health care supporters. We have been very fortunate to work with those who are. We're so grateful for the partnership that we have in place with the Canadian Mental Health Association of Guelph and Wellington, Family Counseling Support Services Guelph Wellington, West for Youth Online, Portage, and of course the Kids Help Phone. They've provided a presence at all of our events, ensuring that our participants were supported and safe and had the opportunity to learn more about mental health and suicide prevention. You may not also be aware of the supports that are available through your child's school. Please reach out to a teacher or a principal or a vice principal to ensure referrals are made to the appropriate resources, which could be a child youth counselor, social worker, or another clinician. The title of tonight's event is called Strength in Our Community. That really resonated with me, as I know that we wouldn't have been able to get to where we are today without that circle of support from our friends, family, and community, with the Lacrosse community specifically being a very big part of that. In discussion with both Casey and Nathan, I know that that is the exact feeling that we want all of their association's members and everyone in attendance tonight to also have as a takeaway. We may currently be separated from each other by distance, but our circles of support do not have to be broken. Lacrosse is often only thought of from a physical health perspective. However, tonight we will be discussing certain topics that can help support your mental and emotional well-being as well. Having faced COVID now for more than a year, I kind of feel like we are in an intense overtime period of a very important game, and we have to find a way to score that final winning goal. This is hard. We are all tired, but digging deep. This is when we need to remember to lean on and draw that little bit of extra strength, courage, grit, and determination from our teammates. Without a doubt, COVID has been very difficult for everyone, with one of our biggest concerns here at Get in Touch for Hutch being the impact that it has on our youth. It has become evident that the impact that feelings of isolation and loneliness can have on our mental health. By focusing on creating opportunities for social connectedness, we can support each other and our own mental health and well-being. Throughout COVID, our kids have had to stop playing with their favorite sports. They've celebrated special events like birthdays without having their very best friends in attendance, and have even had to muddle through their way along through online learning. All of which have presented their own unique challenges for us as well as adults. As parents, it adds a whole other level of complexity on top of what we as individuals are already dealing with, and I know that has been so difficult. We've had no time to plan or prepare for the impacts that this would have on our lives. We're continually being put under restriction, then eventually those are lifted, only to be thrown back into a lockdown, shutdown, stay-at-home order later on that same week or the week following. We just never really understand or know what's coming next. Recently, we have become quite dependent on technology as our main form of communication. Between work from home responsibilities and remote learning, many of us are spending more time than ever on our electronics. Did you know that for every one negative encounter that we experience, that it takes 5 positive ones to counterbalance the effects of that first? If you think about it, right now we are currently being exposed to a ton of information that is so negative in nature. And if you think about that 5-in-1 statement that I just made, we would need to find lots and lots of sunshine, happiness, and rainbows to be able to erase all of that, which no longer serves us so well, that we are continually being exposed to day in and day out. So give yourself permission to turn things off for a little while. That includes both the news and social media, and just take a well-deserved break from it all. You can always catch up on the news on another day, and your scrolling option in your social media feed will still be available for you whenever you decide to check it out. We exist in a society where FOMO, or the fear of missing out, is really strong. But in all reality, if you think about it, it might actually be better for us not to be involved in every little thing that is going on around us. Okay, everybody, take a deep breath. Here we go. Last minute to play in the overtime period. Keep digging deep. If you find that you're really missing your peeps, I suggest you work to find ways to get creative and staying connected with those in your circle. Pick up the phone and actually call someone. You don't have to talk too long, but I bet you'll be surprised at how long you actually do talk to one another. Try a virtual online cooking class together, then plan a virtual dinner date with that same person to taste your creation. Don't forget to include all the colors of the rainbow in your food selections, as this can help to lighten your mood as well. If you're up for a good long socially distanced walk, hit some of the beautiful trails in our area with a pal or a family member when allowed, but please do so safely. Lift those weights, get your cardio in, or do whatever just makes you feel really good. When those positive endorphins are regularly flowing, it can definitely change the outlook on our day and the manner in which we respond to all that is being sent our way each and every day. Or if you prefer a more quiet approach to your wellness plan, stretch it out and do some deep breathing through yoga or Pilates practice and slow your thoughts down all at the same time. Maybe do a little research to see if there are ways that you could support organizations in need within your community. Are there seniors in long-term care who would love to receive a letter from you that just really might make their day? Can you do some baking or help to prepare meals for those who are less fortunate? It really is quite amazing how the positive impact that an act of giving can leave on your mental health. And just a reminder, everybody, getting connected doesn't always have to involve people. Fall in love with a good book series. Check with your local library or your local bookstore to see if they have it available, or if not, select to download the audio version. For me, during COVID, stepping outside of my comfort zone into the world of meditation has been an amazing experience for me. During a hectic work day or on a night that I just can't seem to settle into sleep, there really are some great meditations out there for both youth and adults alike. If meditation isn't for you, I've included a couple of calming techniques, the 4-square breathing, and the calming technique that involves all of your senses on the screen here, that may also be of help to you. I'll be sure to share some of these resources on our social media sites for review after today's event. Rumor has it that we're finally going to see some sunshine and beautiful weather this weekend ahead. Step outside and just put your face to the sun. Get in your gardens and dig. The exercise will help shake off some of your frustration or restlessness. And once the planting is done, you can just sit back and admire the beauty that you've created. If your outdoor space doesn't allow for a garden, bring a little bit of the garden inside. Buy yourself some fresh flowers or plant a few seeds, put them on the windowsill and watch them grow. The birds have returned and are starting to make their appearance. I actually heard them singing to me today. Have you got all of the stuff to build a birdhouse maybe? Or could you create a friendly challenge with your family, friends, or neighbors to determine who can find the widest variety of birds right in your very own backyard? And probably my all-time favorite option to support my own mental health is to turn up my favorite playlist and dance like no one is watching. Music has a way of soothing the soul. I think that's Bob Seger, right? All of those examples, of course, for the kids from Center Wellington Minor Lacrosse can all be done with a lacrosse stick in your hand. So don't forget to make sure that that is constantly being used as well. But in all seriousness, I encourage each of you to do a mental health check-in on yourself every now and then. If you're feeling a little off key, it might be time to nourish yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally. Try to determine what your baseline of mental wellness is. where do you think you were pre-COVID? And where are you at right now? If that feeling of being out of balance continues for longer than you would like it to, or expect that it should, reach out to your healthcare professional or connect with one of the many resources that we are sharing with you right now. We've all got a ton of stuff on our plates right now. Our world is incredibly high-paced and filled with a ton of very high-level expectations. It's so easy to get caught up in that whirlwind. And as we do that, we always forget to give ourselves the love and attention that we also need. You can't pour from an empty cup. And if you're not taking good care of yourself, it is so incredibly hard to take care of others as well. Those who depend on us. There's only so much of us to go around. When I spoke about our dependency on technology earlier as our main mode of communication, I should have mentioned that while the creation of cell phones is a great thing, and we're probably chatting with more people now than we ever used to, we need to remember that we aren't always able to pick up on emotion or read body language through a text message. It will also be more difficult to identify if someone that may be struggling with their mental health. Some reasons that may cause you to be concerned about someone you know or care about might be that that person all of a sudden starts beginning to withdraw from their social connections. Others may exhibit reckless or careless behavior when that is not their normal behavior tendency. Some will turn to increased amounts of alcohol or drugs to help them cope with whatever it is that they are going through. The emotional reaction to difficult life events like a breakup or like the passing of a loved one may also be heightened even more during COVID. And finally, people may actually be talking about wanting to die. Asking someone about their mental health or if they are thinking about suicide is not an easy thing to do. Most people, however, will be glad that you cared enough to reach out and check in. Please always remember that you do not need to have all of the answers yourself. You just need to be able to provide that initial support and know where to direct people to help them get the help that they need. We will be sure to share all of those resources with you again during and after this presentation. If you would like to help someone but don't know how to start the conversation, I would encourage you to research and enroll in one of the many training courses that are available through the Canadian Mental Health Association. The very best thing that you can do, though, for those in your circle who you may be concerned about, is to just be present for them. Listen to them and confirm that you are hearing and understanding what they are saying to you when you are speaking to them. Do your very best in whatever capacity you have to offer to be a good friend, teammate, coach, or parent. A little kindness goes a very long way and has the ability to turn someone's not so great day into a much better one. Your actions do not have to be grand or cost a lot of money, but they do have to be done with sincerity and good intention. Looking back, I sure wish that I knew as much about mental health 8 years ago as I do now. But we'll put all that we have learned along the way to good use in Stephen's honor. Every interaction that I have with someone now provides me with either a lesson or a learning. I am so very grateful to have been able to connect with so many incredible frontline organizations and the incredible people who work there who have helped me so much along this journey. Specifically tonight, I would like to do a huge shout out to Katrina Birch, Team Lead Mental Health Promotion and Education Services at CMHA. She answered my call again, as she always does, and supported me through my preparation for tonight's event. I totally owe you a large cup of your most favorite beverage, Katrina. Thank you so much. Thank you as well to Damon for sharing his knowledge and experiences here tonight as well. We still have so much to learn, and I am so grateful for community leaders like yourself who are championing those societal changes that are yet to come. A shout out of thanks to Darren Stevenson. Sometimes we get to see his face and other times not. He is from 519 Sports Online. Quietly at times sits in the background, but still gets the job done. What he doesn't recognize, I don't think, is just how far reaching his involvement is, as it helps us with the sharing of our personal stories and all of the awareness information that we're sharing here tonight. And as I mentioned in my opening, our lacrosse community is held very near and dear to my heart. Casey, Nathan, Megan, and the entire Center Wellington Minor Lacrosse Association committee congratulations on this amazing event tonight, and thank you for reminding us just how much strength there is in our community, especially the lacrosse community, and for also providing us the opportunity to continue these extremely important conversations. Back to you, Casey.
That is great. Thank you very much, Myrna, for taking the time again to come out and do this. I've had the privilege, this is the third time I've got to listen to your speech, and obviously all different in cases and touching on many different things. So truly honored. It's always different, and I always take something else out of it. So I appreciate that. And I think a lot of people on this call, again, are so fortunate enough that you have the strength to come on and share that story. So I just wanted to share a little story about my first experience with, and I think at that point, Myrna, it wasn't even considered the Get in Touch for Hutch program at that point. It was the first, it was a charity game up in Arthur, the ACC, not the Air Canada Centre. It was the Arthur Community Centre. I got asked to come up and play a lacrosse game with a bunch of NLL players and other players in the community. There was some Thistle players. We also had some Mohawk players and some local players as well. So I got asked to come up to this game, not knowing what to expect. I showed up there. I think it was a Saturday afternoon. You guys were doing a fundraiser run at the time, Myrna, at that point. So we take the floor that day, and we look up in the crowd at the Arthur Community Centre, and there wasn't a seat left in the house. Or it was a completely sold out event for a bunch of guys out throwing a ball around, having a good time, trying to put on a bit of a show. So that to me was the first, and kind of when we talked about this program about strength in our community. And to me, that was probably the best example how I see a community coming together to be strong and work with each other. And that was, to me, it's something I'll never forget, Myrna. So it's very touching to myself. About yourself, you obviously show strength that is unexplainable on what you can do, and being able to do this in front of crowds. I heard you speak at the OLA banquet in front of hundreds of people, and telling a story that is so sad to everyone. So I truly commend you on what you are doing. And again, we here at Center Wellington Lacrosse truly appreciate that you taking the time to come out and do this. And I hope we, as well as other communities and other groups, can do the same thing, and we can all be a part of it together. So we appreciate it very much. I'm just going to ask you a question. It's something that I always found very, that I thought was one of the neatest things that I've seen your program do. And maybe you just can share with some of the young kids out there. They might even already be aware of it, but it's the buddy bench system. To me, I got that off I've seen it at my son's school, and it kind of brought me back to the website to see some more in. So I just wonder if you can maybe share a bit about that. And I think it's obviously the kids aren't in school, so the buddy benches probably aren't getting used as much, but I think it'd be neat to share that story about how that was kind of created and the importance of it.
Sure. So we saw a news story from a little guy down in the States, I think, that was sharing, his hope that he could bring a buddy bench to his school. And we caught on to that idea and just thought it was a great thing. What we've learned on our journey, and obviously through losing Stephen, is that we never really know what someone is going through, regardless of how well we know them or how much we see them. And we know that there's little guys and girls that go to school and maybe haven't had breakfast that morning, or, life's not always happy for them at home. So the buddy bench has been brought to the school grounds to encourage friendship and inclusivity and empathy on the playground. We originally started the program out to bring awareness that everybody should be keeping an eye on the buddy bench, and it has just been used and the program extended so greatly. We know teachers are using that to do problem solving and discuss behavioral issues with kids there. And if the benches are outside on the weekend, sometimes we see adults sitting there and just taking a moment. It's a symbol too, just for us adults, just when we see those bright red benches, just to stop and take a breath and evaluate where we are on any given day as well. So it's definitely by far been one of my favorite projects to work on. It's been met with great success. It's grown greater than we ever anticipated that it would, but I hear Damon talk and know what we have to do to get society changing when we talk about diversity and inclusion. And when we started wanting to go into schools and stuff with our Buddy Bench program, there was a lot of fear there. And conversations like this and some willing admin and teachers to bring us in and allow these kinds of conversations to happen, that's what's made the change happen for us. And it's just been amazing to watch.
Myrna, may I say, you are an amazing, courageous woman. And I know it's not easy to be here, but I know how important it is to you to share your message so that hopefully no other family has to go through what you unfortunately went through 8 years ago. A little bit of kindness can go a long way. And I know it seems like a very simple phrase, but it's so true, especially now in the social media world that we live in. And everybody here is on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. And that just kind of leads into the first question we got for you, Myrna. Bullying nowadays versus when we were younger. Has social media played a part in that change in your mind?
It definitely has, because, we hear the word keyboard warrior, and we know that those types of people exist. And what that means is that, I gain a new strength because I'm sitting behind a computer screen and have a keyboard accessible to me, and I don't have to say what I want to say in front of somebody's face. So, we do see the online bullying and the meanness, I will say, there in social media. But the change that we've also seen come from that is, as again, Damon, I just connected so much with your presentation. I'm also seeing people starting to call things out a little bit. We have the report option on social media, but I also see people voicing their opinions when they see things that they don't agree with. It takes courage, but it's what we all need to do to make this change happen.
And I think you also have a choice when it comes to social media, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever it is. There is an unfollow button and there is an unfriend button. And I think at times we all get lost in social media, especially the past year, where everybody is at home and they're on their phones and they're on their iPads and they're on all of these different things. I'm not trying to say filter out the world, but what I'm trying to say is be smart about what you consume, because you're absolutely right. Even if it's not something personal that comes at you, reading those negative headlines and those negative things over and over and over can absolutely be detrimental. Myrna, you had some great advice. Go for a walk. Don't take your phone. Just get some fresh air. And I think those are messages right now, given the circumstances that we're in as a province, that are so important to share.
I agree. I've caught myself lately because it feels like COVID has lasted 10 years, not 1 year. So I've caught myself lately wanting to react to some posts that I've seen on social media and allow myself the 24-hour cooling off period. But if it is, my response to that, when I realize that I just need to keep scrolling, we forget that we can just keep scrolling as well. And my other favorite tool on social media is to block the person for 30 days, just to give me a little break from them. So take a pause. We don't always have to immediately react or respond, and just take a pause and make a decision of how you want to interact with that post for that person.
We're getting a couple of questions coming in. For younger lacrosse players, how can we help our children to be able to help their friends or recognize someone who needs help?
Excuse me. So this is a great question. And sadly, we're seeing mental health impacting our youth at younger and younger ages all the time. I think what we have to do is keep the door of communication open all the time, and be able to talk your child through that in a way that they're able to support their friend. The other resource that we have close by here in Wellington, Guelph and Wellington, is the Here 24/7 line. And what I encourage everybody to do, whether they're the person who needs support themselves or if they're wanting to support someone and just don't know what to do with that is call the Here 24/7 line. They will talk you through the best plan of action for the scenario that you're being faced with, and help you guide yourself and your child through that.
And some of those links that you're mentioning, Myrna, they are in the chat for anybody on the webinar. So if you want to go into the chat, and those will also be available as part of the content that we put out here in the next couple of days on the Center Wellington Minor Lacrosse site, as well as 519 Sports Online. You pointed out some signs for recognizing changes in friends. Any tips on recognizing difficulty in ourselves?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's hard for us to think right now about how enjoyable life can be. When we've had so much, we feel like we've had so much taken away from us. There came a time for me after we lost Stephen that I just I couldn't get myself out of bed anymore, and but there I was responding to everybody else about what they needed to do to be able to support themselves or their friends, right? So I think it's important to put ourselves first. We always need to do that self-check-in that I mentioned. Just try to figure out where we were at and be honest with ourselves, right? I think it's easy for us. I talked about, getting caught up in that whirlwind. And that can happen if we're not taking that pause and just trying to determine where we are at on that wellness spectrum.
A couple of last ones for you, Myrna. Quote, I hear older players in stands cheering and yelling at players, goalies, etc. I realize it's been part of the game for so long, and most people just go, it's just for fun, right? If a goalie is being yelled at, quote, you suck, in a packed arena, is this part of mental health that players should think about? Is it time that part of the game or going over the line like that should change?
Yeah, it's I have been at a game when that has happened, and it's not comfortable for the majority of people who are in that arena listening to that. So I truly believe there's a code of respect in the game of lacrosse, and that starts in the dressing room, out onto the floor and up into the stands. And I think we all need to be empathetic. The most uncomfortable person in that rink at that time would be that poor goalie. And I'm going to use Damon's word, empathy, right? We need to be empathetic and try to put ourselves in that person's shoes and try to understand exactly how he is feeling, having to listen to that, for the whole game, more or less. So I think what's important, we need to speak about it. If you're not comfortable saying something in that environment, talk to somebody who may be. If you're a player that's part of that team that might have been exhibiting those behaviors, talk to your coach. It's a great conversation for us to have in the dressing room. None of us are perfect. What I've learned is that we all have so much to learn and behaviors to unlearn. And the only way we can change this is to talk about it and implement some new actions and behaviors moving forward.
How can people make donations and find out more about Get in Touch for Hutch?
Our email address is getinTouchforHutch@hotmail.com. We have a donate button on our website, getinTouchforHutch.com. Reach out. We're happy to engage in any conversation that you may want to have with us. As I mentioned, we may not always have the answers or be the ones to be able to provide the best support for you, but we certainly know who to put you in touch with, who will be able to do that for you.
Last one. What would you like everybody to know about your baby boy?
Oh gosh, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid if you go through a phase in your life where you're struggling. You can't be afraid of this. It happens to us all, and there's resources and supports out there to get us through it. And it really is just part of life. This is the stigma, right? We've got to take that away, got to make a change around that. And we are never, ever alone.
A little bit of kindness goes a long way. Thank you, Myrna. Courageous of you to be here tonight and share your story. And to both of you, Damon, impactful, important issues that need to, carry forward, and we need to have the resources to be able to deal with these things. And both of you have provided just honest and exceptional information, and we appreciate both Damon and Myrna being here tonight. Thank you very much to both of you. And I'm going to turn it over now to Nathan Joyce, the president of CWMLA, to wrap up the evening. Nathan.
Thank you so much, Darren. I really appreciate everything that you've given to us this evening. Damon, Myrna, such great information. And I know everyone in the room here tonight is going to be able to take this away. Darren's going to be chopping up these videos, and like you mentioned at the intro there, he's going to be posting them to social media. So make sure we are able to share this message, because both Damon and Myrna mentioned repeatedly that we need to continue these conversations. And that to me is a huge takeaway from this evening. Just a lighter note here on the lacrosse season. We are still planning. We're going to be continuing to plan and roll with each of the punches that gets passed down to us from the provincial government, as well as the COVID and how that unfolds globally. And we're going to be ready to go. So Darren's smiling. I like it. He's ready to go here, back on the field, get some sunshine, some nice green grass. It's all good. So thank you again, everyone, for attending tonight. And remember that we are needing to continue these conversations, these really important conversations. And as Myrna put it for us tonight, remember that we're never alone. Thank you.
For more highlights, visit our website, 519sportsonline.ca. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.